Mr. Chairman. I want to thank the witnesses for joining us here today. For many families, including many of my constituents in Sacramento, energy bills are a serious financial burden, and I'm committed to reducing that burden. But I want to highlight the misinformation that lies at the heart of this hearing. Clean energy is not the reason for high gas prices. In fact, clean energy is critical to making energy affordability for consumers in the long term. Now, there's no question that the cost of gas has increased since 2021, but it's not because of clean energy. It's because there was a global oil shortage. Mr. Higgins, what happened in early 2022 that caused a global oil shortage?
The biggest factor was Russia's invasion of Ukraine,
Okay.
which disrupted the entire energy system globally.
Absolutely. I find it odd that Republicans are blaming the Biden-Harris administration for high gas prices when Russia's invasion of Ukraine has clearly been a key factor in driving high gas prices. Now, it's not just gasoline prices. Electricity prices also spiked in 2022 because of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Mr. Higgins, very briefly, can you talk about how the invasion of Ukraine affected natural gas prices and U.S. electricity bills?
So it raised gasoline prices, I mentioned a few minutes ago, because the price of oil is set globally. Natural gas prices used to be set domestically, but as we've increased our export capacity, we've increased the exposure of the U.S. economy to global natural gas prices. That means that this crisis hurt us. And since 40% of our electricity system is based on natural gas right now, when natural gas prices go up, it drives electricity prices up.
Okay, now, states that added more wind and solar to the grid between 2010 and 2023 tend to have lower electricity bills. Mr. Higgins, when compared with natural gas, why would clean energy be associated with lower electricity bills?
So the cost of installing solar and wind takes some work, which is why the Inflation Reduction Act invests in getting them built. Once they are built, they just run. They don't have an ongoing fuel cost. They are the cheapest form of electricity available.
Okay. Now, as you said, clean energy is cheap, abundant, and reliable. And last Congress, Democrats passed historic legislation to make it even cheaper. Mr. Higgins, how much do you expect the Inflation Reduction Act and the infrastructure bill to save American families on their energy bills?
We're on a very good trajectory right now. And so by 2035, which is just 10 years away, we could see, according to the latest estimates from the Rhodium Group, that household energy spending would be cut by a third, which is an annual savings of $2,000 a year.
Oh, can you briefly explain where those savings are coming from?
Some of it comes from reduced spending on electricity because of increased efficiency. Some of it comes from counteracting the price impacts of increased demand on the electricity grid by switching to clean electricity. A lot of it comes from the households that do switch to electric vehicles because it works for them, no longer having to pay gasoline. And this insulates the entire economy from price volatility.
Okay, now it's not just about lowering electricity bills, but it's also about bringing manufacturing back to this country and providing high-paying jobs for hardworking Americans. Mr. Higgins, how has the Inflation Reduction Act and the infrastructure law impacted investment in U.S. manufacturing?
Clean energy manufacturing investment has quadrupled in the 2 years since the Inflation Reduction Act compared to the 2 years prior. That's an extraordinary new growth. It's more than tripled for battery investment. There's been $75 billion in car-related investments. So the EVs, the batteries, critical mineral processing. This is set to create and sustain 330,000 new jobs per year in the United States.
That's great. Now, Republicans have made clear in their Project 2025 plan that they will fully repeal the Inflation Reduction Act and the infrastructure law and shut down these new factories. The new Redwood Materials battery plant in Charleston, South Carolina, Hyundai in Georgia, LG in Michigan and Arizona, Honda in Ohio. Workers at these plants are counting on the Inflation Reduction Act. Mr. Higgins, what would happen to these factories if the Inflation Reduction Act is repealed?
I think that pulling the support that these factories were counting on as they calibrated their investments would be disastrous. And it's exactly what China is hoping for. I just visited China to press them on climate action. And the number one question that they have is whether the Inflation Reduction Act will be repealed. because they are very concerned about these manufacturing investments in the United States and are in fact challenging them in front of, challenging the EV tax incentives in particular in front of the World Trade Organization, trying to repeal them.
Thank you very much, and my time has expired. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. I now go to Dr. Bird.